Okay, I think you're listening to me. So we are starting. Um, Let me know if we have a visual confirmation over here. If you can listen to me, so we can start. Um, I think I'm having it right now. Okay, I have video, and you let me know about the audio. Of course. Let me know if you can hear the bass over here. Okay. If you can hear that and my voice correctly without delay, that's one of the things that we need to check well. And we can start, okay? For the ones that don't know about this little section over here in the channel, this is a place for questions and answers, mainly from you to me. Nothing else is really going on other than that. So this is more like a class for you to attend, really, and I'm trying to make it that way, okay? So I'm trying to usually now give you more things to think about in each song, especially about harmony, especially about how to approach the songs that I've been playing. So you can also tell me more things, more doubts about those songs or whatever other song that I played before. But this is for questions, answers about anything related to bass music, advices on whatever you want. Okay. I'm trying to be kind of like a teacher, but not in the usual way. Okay. I'm not trying to be better than you. I'm not actually. So any advice, anything that you want to add to anything, it's really welcome. Okay. I'm not in the mood for much spamming or whatever stupid comment that someone might get. So I will be ready to kick out people if they're not behaving. Okay. I'm really taking this like a class, and I want to make privilege of the ones that want to really get something out of this. Okay. And when someone is trying to take attention in the class, you kick them out, okay? And because they want to have all the attention and not giving it to the people that want to really learn, okay? Y en español también voy a estar respondiendo preguntas siempre, ¿ok? No hay problema si alguien las hace. Now, I remind you something about, really about socials. I will remind you of this every Friday at 4 or 3 about. I'm doing it, and I always make the notice in Facebook. So if you want to go to Facebook, and we also have the super chat in case you want to have a really marked question in which we can go more deep into. You can support this instance with super chat or with a link that I have on the description. Okay. So as long as you give me some questions, we can start. Okay. It's been a great week. I uploaded, I think, 2 songs that are not that forgotten in time, and they are really great. I really enjoyed playing Don't Speak, especially because it was a really nice line that I would have never actually could have listened to if I could when this song was popular, because bass have become, I think, a little bit more into the role of listeners, as long as technology has advanced with it, in a way, because low frequencies are now a little bit easier to notice, actually, when we consume music on TV or we consume on cell phones. We usually don't care that much about or really crappy earbuds. I don't know. You don't really notice what the bass is doing. And with I think with headphones and with good equipment, it comes more enjoyment of nice things that a bass can do. And I really didn't like that in this song, and the level of bass, and in many other songs that you can comment on me. You notice there's really low volume of bass, in a way that even in mixing qualities it's too low. Hey, but I know it's hard. It's hard when you mix to get a really good presence on bass and not over exaggerating. It's a little bit difficult, but it denotes a really careful craft of your song, in a way. If you can notice the bass in its splendor, if it has something to say, obviously. It's all in production value sometimes. So I will be going on to some questions about requests. This is not a place for requests. YouTube comments are a place for me to give an idea of what I can do. But here I'm not going to play it just because of copyright mainly, okay? Um, so I'm going to play whatever you want me to really, okay? Um, so someone is asking, I'm not gonna read your name because it's monstrously big, but how to slap bass because I can never hit the A string. And I've come to notice that many people have that problem. Okay, maybe they can get to slap easily the E string. It's not that a big deal to begin to do it, especially if you manage to know your technique in terms of the wrist movement of your right hand, I think. Okay, you need to remember your right hand needs to be really relaxed and trying to do most of the motion of the slapping motion from the wrist. Okay, more in a whip motion, a whiplash motion is the one that I always try to go to. So I always try to make comparison of martial arts with this with striking or using the your force in a really focused way. It's always a matter of martial arts and a matter really of musical technique. I really think you need to use the whole harmony of your body, the whole weight and the whole relaxation of it to create good motions. Okay, so this goes into applying a nice rebound of the wrist that will make you to slap and immediately will make you to get out of the way of the sound. That's important. You can't slap and do this. You will mute the sound, of course. So you can practice something like this just with slapping and then going back to other string and practicing your accuracy. Okay, for the A string it's kind of like the same deal, but you're going one level to another one. You go down, and as you can see, who's doing the work right there? Okay, okay, I need a minute. I will be back just in a minute. Okay. Okay, so where was I? Yeah, slapping to one string to another, especially for skipping strings. It might be difficult to go into the A string. And as you can see, I'm kind of like moving really my arm in a really constant and a slight motion to get from E to E, but I'm not changing much of my hand position. Okay, I'm not doing this and then this and then this and changing my wrist angle. Okay, my angle goes into changing movement of the arm in this case. Okay. This is a really good exercise for practicing that, and I'm usually messing up when I'm doing this. Okay, it's kind of like a little bit harder than the usual. I always tell you. Try to play two hits of a slapping in each string. Then muting, it's important over here so you don't get too much sounds. Then going to A string. And back and forth. But the muting has to be in time, so you have pam pam two cha cha pam pam and then you can go into a more constant motion, so you can do something like this. You are grouping into threes, okay? Pa 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 pa. Or whatever, okay? And you can begin to apply what is muting over here, but also doing a left hand slap, and that's a really interesting thing to add about slapping. You have a slapping over here, popping over here, and I think left hand slap is a thing that will increase more of your language even. Yeah, it's more of an advanced thing probably, but it's not that difficult to just doing this, okay? Okay, so questions, you can let me know, okay? Dedo Cochino pregunta: ¿los bajos Yamaha son buenos? Depende, siempre hay gama y calidad, pero para empezar recomiendo siempre generalmente Squire, pero Yamaha tiene buenas calidades, especialmente en términos de otros tipos de bajos. Me parece que activos o para metal o para otros géneros. Creo que te vas a encontrar igual con buenos ejemplos. Is this how to practice for slapping bass? Yeah. This is for to practice for slapping bass. Now, when you get the accuracy, I think it's a really a barrier in which you will get more and more comfortably involved into bass, okay? Slap bass. Because you can do something like this. And hitting the note fully, that's the thing you need to amount for, okay? Okay, Gene Hanson says, can you give a brief introduction to bass chords? namely, when is it okay to include them in a song? Okay. The main role of bass is always to make an overview of a chord in a way where we're playing over arpeggios most of the time, right? We're just if we have a C major, we're usually not doing this, and we're making lines about the notes that compound the chord. But in some other cases, I think it's really interesting to play chords simultaneously on bass, and I actually like them a lot. So for understanding chords, you need to know a little bit of the nature of what is a chord. Okay, a chord is two or three or more notes played together that create a harmony. In cases of simplification, you have mostly a world of major and minor chords, especially for common tonality. Those chords are compounded of three notes, one over another, separated by thirds. In this case, you have C, the third from C, it's E, and the third from E is G. Knowing the thirds as intervals is important, and knowing the difference between minor third and major third. Okay, that in bass it's just a separation, really. A minor third from C over here, it's over here, and it's an E flat, or it's over here, same thing. And for those are the two examples that you can find really in patterns from bass. Then you have the major third, that is just one semitone above the minor third, and it's an E, and over here that separation and that separation. Okay, those are the pattern based things that you can add to get more and more thirds together. For example, you have to create a major chord, you need to create two intervals. You need to create a major third, and from that major third, a minor third. So you could say a major chord it's composed of a major third followed by a minor third, and a minor chord it's composed by exactly the opposite, a minor third first and then a major third. That is I think I like to explain it that way, and not saying okay, D major has these notes and whatever, because then you can manage to know the notes of any chord if you know that rule. That rule is really important. Okay, remember, a major chord it's composed of a major third and minor third, and the opposite for the minor chord. Knowing that, you can create your own figures of chords, especially on bass. But there's some really common that I can approach into. I'm going to take, for example, C major. How can you make a C major that it's not sounding really awful, like over here? Then you have many sounds together. There you have a C, E, and G, of course, but it doesn't sound that great. You need to go more into the higher register, right? So you have another option over here. It's kind of like the same deal, but you have over here other option, and that's just the major third. But a very common option might be something like this. If you want to cover all the notes. Now, here's an important thing. For bass, we usually skip the last note of that triad of those three chords, or it's called the fifth. You have the tonic, the third, and the fifth. You know, the interval from the first major third, it's called the tonic and goes into the third, and then the third goes into the fifth. So you can actually deduce that a minor third plus a major third becomes a fifth. Now you have that knowledge, and for bass we usually skip the fifth, and we go right into the first chord that I kind of like implemented, and it's really minimalistic in a way, because you have a C major with these two notes, and that creates the harmony of C major. Again, this is a C, and then you add the major third, but over the octave. Okay, it's not over here. It's not like this. You move this E into the octave of it, and then you play the original C. Okay, and that is a really common way of playing what sounds like a major chord. Of course, you're not playing the fifth over here to complete the full triad, but as you can know in higher amounts of knowledge in harmony, usually the fifth, it's something that you can not play, and you will get the same kind of like coloration of the chord. So you go into C major. You can play like this, and you can add even the octave over here with that and the third. Okay, so this is a very common way to play a major chord, and for a minor chord, you just have to play this note and rewind it back just one semitone, because this is a major third and you have the minor third in this position. Okay, you can play like this, or you can play it even with one finger, making kind of like this motion in a capo way, or you can do it like this. So a good example for that, and a good exercise, would be okay, thinking about a chord. Okay, I want to make G major over here. Same pattern for everything, especially if you take this the confrontation of the first against the fourth string. And maybe now I want to make a D minor over here. Okay, E minor, F sharp major. Again, same type of approach that you can fill up with the octave, no problem. Okay, this is a B minor again. Knowing that, it's important, but also, as I said, knowing how to create chords will give you more independence in what to do with chords. You can make a C major over here. This is another type of position in which when you pass the 12th fret, I think you get more definition, and you can play intervals that are really close together, especially for C and E. Now it doesn't sound that muddy like this. Now it sounds a little bit more defined. Okay. So for this chord, I'm doing C, E, and the octave. Again, I'm skipping the fifth. Okay. And if you want to make it minor, you have this option or this option, and many other options. Okay. But if you want to approach it more in in a beginner way, maybe on trying to explore chords, how to play them, knowing that rule, it's important, the major third, the minor third, applying it to the bass, and especially knowing this type of chords. I have an example of a song that I actually made that has a approach of this type of sound that I really like. Sounds really minimalistic. I really like it. Okay, that's enough for that. But I don't think I have many other questions now. I was just wondering if bending the wrist was necessary since I'm trying to keep a straight neutral wrist. Yeah, about position then. Um, it's really a common mistake to bend too much of the wrist and making it too tight. Okay, in cases you need to do a little bit of a motion over here, but in most of the cases you need to keep a straight wrist for position, especially over here, trying to keep it as straight as possible and going around with your fingers and going around with the motion of your your arm. Okay, so over here I'm playing and look at the wrist. I have a little bit of a bend, but it's not that extreme, I think. Okay, and if I want to compensate over that, I can lower a little bit more of my arm. Okay. Okay. The important thing is knowing how to make a really good grip on your thumb and making it behind over here, behind the frets, and kind of like treating this part of the bass like it's like you're kind of like grabbing a pack of cards, you can say, with the same strong grip, but also really soft in a way. Okay, you need to control that. And for this part of the fretboard, it will be always more difficult to maintain good position. I don't think over here it's a trouble. But over here doing the same thing will be really difficult because of the thickness of the string and of course of the fret itself. Okay. But I'm never stretching myself, and if I feel ever slightly a little bit of stretching pain or whatever, I tend to modificate my my approach. That's the thing. I think you need to listen more of your body in sometimes. Okay, if you're feeling too stressed, too strained into playing something, probably you're doing it wrong. Okay, but yeah, those are the common mistakes. Bending too much is not great. Okay, it's just a really slight accommodation, I think. Especially over here, there I am bending. I'm not actually straight because I couldn't go over straight. Okay, it's really difficult, but it's not extreme. You're talking about my boy 12 ton, I think. Yeah, I like him. I follow every YouTuber now from a new era, I think, of knowledge in music, and I really like it. I really like how things are going with that, especially with Adam and many others, really, that are trying to demystificate some things. In a way, music has been too a reign of ignorance in a way. You know, it's more like a yeah, do what you feel, bro, and whatever. And in those cases, it's not always the best for learning. Okay, learning needs to be a little bit more fact based and a little bit more objective, but also needs to have a really good moral approach. and I like that. I also like to apply more philosophy into music. Maybe I could one day do something like that, but let's see. Understanding series, yeah, yeah. Can you tell me a few good songs that I can practice to help me get better at slapping? Okay, songs. I don't know if I could manage to tell you some songs that are not that will not take much time of you and will not be difficult. I think every approach to slap will be a little bit difficult to get the real good sound. Okay, you can do it in a way or another, but you will always have to struggle with getting a real good sound. But I really think Red Hot Chili Peppers has the really the real beginner approach into getting to slap. And maybe some other genres, maybe some other commenters over there can give me more examples. Of course, you have a lot of dominion in this case for Red Hot Chili Peppers, especially for lines that are not that difficult to get. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I think this. I don't remember. Higher ground. It's not a difficult line to get into if you play it slowly and try to go into it. Maybe even Can't Stop, I guess. But then in those type of slapping things, you have a lot of ghost notes, and that is, I think, a step higher in technique on slap. But it's not that difficult. No, I don't know why people tend to go into thinking it's really difficult. That's something that it's not that difficult to get. Then you have I think no, I don't remember. I think that was a coffee shop. I don't remember. And what else? I actually don't remember. But I think it wouldn't be bad to say to start with Red Hot Chili Peppers and trying to analyze things over there. Do you think about going on with covers on other instruments? Well, yeah, I think it's always a matter of time for me to not get much into other instruments. I really wanted this to be cover solutions in the context of many instruments. You know, trying to play guitar and trying to play drums, and you have some examples actually in the videos. But over time, I've given more and more attention to bass, mostly because of patrons giving me suggestions and trying to maintain this going afloat. And I tend to like, of course, more the bass, really. And I really like the role that bassists are having now. I think it's improving, really. It's improving because people are beginning to understand the benefits of knowing good bass. I really think. But yeah, with a guitar, I really like guitar, and I like playing some things and drums. I really liked it, but for things of time, I can't do the full band things that like I could, like I wanted to maybe. But maybe sometime, I can go back into it. For now, I'm liking bass, and I'm having my support, and I can live with that. But I'm probably, if this channel ever goes into shit, really, I will probably have to lift it up, trying to go into more worlds, really. Maybe trying to do some things in many aspects, so more people can come, really. I don't know how many of you are really bassist or bass interested people, and how many of you are just guitarists or just drummers or just whatever other thing. So I don't know. I have some videos, yeah, with drums, but I'm really bad at it. I'm not really good at other instruments now. I can defend myself probably and have a little bit of language, but in terms of technique, I would say bass is the thing that I can maybe shine a little bit more. In terms of creativity, I think when you are a creative person and you have a little bit of notions of whatever instrument, you can get something out of it, really. Okay? And that's why I like being multi-instrumentalist in a way, because that gives you the vision, this empathic vision, I think, of knowing how to play other instrument and how to compose in that instrument, knowing the limits of it, and knowing how to write for drums, how to write for guitar. That's a thing that I have to do all the time. So I don't write without knowing how it's going to sound physically. I don't know if you understand me, okay? I write knowing that I'm playing it, and I know how I want it to go, really. So it's more dominion over what sounds and what you have, and what you can do on the construction of the instrument. And that's actually one of the things of why I support tablature, really. I really support tablature for guitar and for bass, and not like a beginner just oriented thing. I really support it, but in many ways, like it should be the main for me, really, for a personal opinion, it should be the main notation system for guitar and bass, because those are instruments that are really based on patterns and really based on the physicality, and it's not like piano where you have all the notes in right in front of you. Okay, you're based on patterns, and patterns make creativity, not limitations, in a way. Okay, if I want to write for bass and I just put on a C on the clef of on the bass clef, you have many C's over here, and maybe I want the sound of this C compared to this C, because it's really a difference. Okay, for the ones that know, if I notate something like this, but I play it over here. The physicality of the instrument, of playing this in one string or playing this in two strings, knowing that difference of the pattern will give you a different sound, will give you a more slight sound, even if you're not notating it, a darker sound that goes into the thicker strings. Those are things that I'm interested in when I compose. So I always go with tablature for guitar and bass, really. And I'm prepared to fight anyone that wants to go into, okay, yeah, but score and whatever. Yeah, I have many, I think, opinions on that, but I'm open to it, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't know how to read any type of notation that is popular. That involves tablature, and that involves score, of course. what would you what would you say to teachers that say sheet music is necessary? It really is for instruments and for knowing basic things. It is okay. I'm not saying you should just skip sheet music, especially if you want to know music in other ways that is not just being an interpreter of the instrument. Okay, I know how to compose on other type of score, and because I compose also on keyboards and on voice and many other things. But if I want more, as I said, if I want more composition, more control in composition, I will tend to go into tablature, because I want this to be played over here, not over here. I don't want that difference in it. I think it's a little bit less rigorous in sheet music. I have a question over here, I think. What stick do you recommend for fighting off all the women that want to get with us bass players? I don't know. With experience, I think I've come into buying a stick that prevents me from that. I don't know. Now, that's another thing that I really think it's really stupid. I know, kind of like in a meme way. I don't know. Of the role of the bassist, and no one hears the bassist, and no one cares about the bassist or whatever. I can tell you many people actually think bass can be more interesting in many ways. But yeah. Yeah, if you're playing, if you're really playing music because of you want of the social hierarchy that gives you, you should consider other things really. This is not for getting girls, you know. I bought the same bass as you, but as a 5-string. What do the knobs do? The owner doesn't know, and neither do I. Yeah, I don't know if the 5-string version, the T25, has more knobs over here. It probably has, I don't know. But here I have control of both pickups. Here is just with this pickup. It's actually a little bit inverted, I think, because if I go low zero volume over here, I'm just getting the sound of this pickup. So this is controlling this pickup. And for the same over here, I'm muting this one, so I'm getting the sound over here. Okay. And for both of them over here, is the right below is the tone of each one of them. Okay, that's all. If you go low volume, zero volume, you will go with zero on both knobs. But that is different in any bass, really. Yeah. The thing about basses and construction is always a little bit difficult to get. But yeah, that's it. What was I talking about? I don't remember. But yeah, if you have more questions about anything, really, I want to play more. I don't. I tend to go into this, and I don't play that much. So I hope you're playing. Maybe if you're watching this, I'm going to give you, I don't know. tips about slap bass again. I think some of you are still a little bit worried about getting girls. Don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it. Can you give a tip about slap bass? I think that's a little bit broad. I always get some people knowing. I don't know your level of knowledge if you ask me that, but I can do something about it. Just going back into the same things, okay? I was just telling you about wrist movement, and that is really important to get a really nice motion of it, okay? So, for exercises, I tend to go over this, okay? A, 5th fret, 7th fret on the D string for the octave of A over here. And I just go in and play over here, okay? And I go over patterns over the same thing, okay? So for slap, remember, wrist movement, relaxed wrist, always getting rid of the I mean, aiming not to maintain your finger over here and to nullify the sound. You want to just get rid of the thumb once you play. You can rest it over here, or you can just lift it. And for popping, the same thing, okay? I think for popping it's always a little bit easier to get it. It's just lifting the string from behind, really, and with the same motion. It's not doing something like this over there, trying to lift your arm. It's just the motion of the wrist, really, okay? It doesn't come out of this, just wrist, okay? You can see I'm not doing a lot of motion with my arms. So you go over here and you just go something like that. Maybe you can move up. And you can then apply some patterns, maybe, and doing 2 slaps and 1 pop. That's really common. Everything with really good sound. That is the thing, okay? When you practice any type of exercise, as long as you're getting a good clean sound, you can go up in speed or go up in complexity. You really need to practice your most basic exercises, and if you're not managing to make them flawless, you need to go over that until you get it flawless, okay? Same thing for that. I'm any day I'm trying to practice this, just going over the whole fretboard, but doing it without flows and trying to apply more and more speed into it, okay? And then you go back here and you go backwards. I think that's the master exercise for me. I tend to always do it for warming up, and it gives you a more clear view of how are you doing with your technique. But yeah, about slapping, I don't know what else I can tell you. You need to give me more a more detailed question about your real problem with it, okay? What's your difficulty on approaching a slap? Nick Davis says, I'm a cello player, not a bass player, but do you use 3 or 2 fingers? For bass, yeah. 2 fingers is the most common thing, alternating it between index and middle, right? Or middle and index, I don't know. Some people tend to have a tendency to start with index or maybe start with middle. I don't know, the difference is not that really a difficulty, but in some cases you really need to take care of your patterns and really starting with index because of some reason, or starting with middle because of some other reason. But in most of the cases it's alternating between these two fingers, usually trying to recommend the index to start. And when you're trying to add the third finger, is usually for a thing about speed, because you can get just to one amount of speed really with these two fingers, and after that maybe you need more and more speed, so you apply more fingers. But it's really difficult really to implement this finger, especially for straight eight notes, because you will get always an accent that sounds like you're playing 3 notes together. And that's the thing that many of the bassists that get into that type of technique struggle with it. Do you have any advice on how to develop slapping? I'm trying to work on double thumbing, but I can't really string any tunes together. Any advice is appreciated. Okay. I would say don't rush, man. I'm not even that great in double thumbing. I'm trying to do it right now, but I don't really use it. You know. It's something that really it's helpful and whatever, but I hope you're having your roots well put together, and that's a really important thing. So I would ask you that really, if you're really sure about your other types of more root based technique, that's really most important. Okay. The things that I was just telling you about, position is really important, and to go in for more ghost notes for slap, I think is the second step into getting more like something like this. And having a complex motion going over and over just by doing this type of feel, okay? Selecting your notes that you want to play by just going over that, it's important. And for that, it's just playing slowly and trying to go into it, okay? I've come to know that trying to play a line, whatever line, but just with slapping, it's always great, okay? Since slapping is a more precise thing to achieve than popping. You can maybe go in a melody with just popping. But I would always insist that being clean, it's really a gift, and it really determines if you're good, if you're clean playing person, you know, not getting too much undesired noises while you play. And that takes playing slow and playing consciously, really. Have you ever listened to the band Made Violent? No, not really. Can you show slowly how to play ghost notes? Sure, man. Related to finger picking and slapping, it's the same deal, you know. It's all in the left hand. Okay, so really important. I don't know how to show you, but my grip when I'm playing ghost notes is just placing the fingers over here. Okay, I'm not pressing, really not pressing. I'm just placing fingers, but I'm I always say to you guys, you place the most fingers you can. Okay, you're not placing just one finger, because if I really want to get a ghost note out of, I don't know, this A, I really need to hear how this is sounding. Okay, I really need to get the most percussive sound, just like if I'm tapping. Okay, and tapping and making a percussive sound doesn't have many well-defined harmonics that makes a note sound. So if you having just one finger over here, you will always get sound. You need to apply more than 2 or even 3 fingers. Okay, so a really good exercise for beginning into that is just playing open strings and understanding how I'm applying the sound of the ghost note well. Okay, then the difficult part would be not playing only just ghost notes, playing notes and ghost notes and trying to go over that. Okay, I always tend to go for an example like this. I'm playing just the first 16 note in note form and the other 3 in ghost note. So the thing that I do is I play, then I go into other position in hand to go into the ghost note. I'm not just doing this. That gives you bad ghost notes. Okay, you need to do something like this. Play, go into position of the ghost note that involves more than 2 fingers. Again. Okay, you notice that I'm always going back into pressing with more than 2 or 3 fingers. Okay, it's always at the same time probably of the note, and that's the thing. I think someone asked, it's not that you put it before, it's at the same time. Okay, I'm not preparing that motion behind the note. That may be a little bit more confusing. It's just like when you press into a note, the main thing that many people try to get when they are really beginners is pressing the note and then playing. And that gives you really bad playing when someone tries to make an exercise like this, because you're making hammer-ons, you're making undesired notes. Same thing for ghost notes. Okay, it's at the same time. Motions are at the same time, from left to right hand. Okay, same time. So this exercise always great. If you manage to do that, I think you're really well with ghost notes and differentiated with notes and ghost notes. Yeah, right. In context of whatever line, it will always change the way you approach into it. Okay, for some cases maybe you won't be able to play a ghost note with even 2 or 1 finger. So maybe you would have to sacrifice a little bit of more noise or dangers of noise approaching. Okay. This is a really good and simple exercise. And many things are happening over there with that simple thing. Okay, playing, muting the same note that I just played to go into other string. While doing that, I'm doing ghost notes. So for that, I'm using right here technique on the right hand, playing, muting with remaining fingers over here, this string, and then going into the other string. I'm using most of the time my thumb to stop the notes that go behind me, okay, the lower strings, and then I go ghost note, boom, chuka chuka chukum boom boom boom, chikum 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 dum 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 chikum chikum chikum. And that is a line that you can maintain playing, and you will sound like a good bass player, really, because you're applying really a lot of technique. And if you're clean while playing that, you will get much respect, really, okay? Finding really good clean bass players, I think it's always difficult. The cleaning process in bass, it's always important, and more important than other instruments, I really think, because you have big strings, you have big vibrations, and big possibility of fucking up, really, okay? What software and plugins do you use? Okay, that's something I always say, but I will repeat it. The softwares I'm working on for recording, mixing are Cubase for a workstation. Cubase is an audio workstation that you can find, and you can prefer many others. You have of course, you have Pro Tools, you have many other things, okay? FL Studio, many programs that just incorporate the thing to the interface in which to record and mix or whatever. And for that, for emulating cabinets and amps, I'm using Amplitude most of the time, especially for bass. I'm going into the interface, go clean like this. I'm just clean now, but I'm not adding the Amplitude magic in which gives me a little bit more of the sound of the amp, really, that I really need for some songs. And then you have finally for mixing and mastering, I'm using Waves plugins, really. I have some favorites, but I tend to use the H compressor, the H equalization. I use a little bit of the CLA compressors, I think. Many other types of plugins that you can find, really. But after getting that, you actually get a really good sound. If you have a nice sounding instrument and a good signal, a good clean signal, you can get a nice sound, as you can maybe experience with the videos. Of course, it's not the same probably as recording an amp, a real amp, you know. It shouldn't be the same, and many other things. But I'm doing what I can with what I want, with what I have, really. Yeah, and also with what I want, because I want this to be really self-produced. I don't know if I skip some other programs. I have a problem. I play bass, but I have small hands and can't play fast. Can you give me some tips on how to play faster? Okay, this is another thing. Most of the time, and I always say it, and most of the time when people say I have small hands, I can't do whatever, in most of the cases, it's a thing about technique also, okay? Even with the smallest hands, I've seen people reach out into making complex things. And stretching and whatever, okay, that this is something that you can actually achieve. Of course, if you have really mini hands, probably not, but I don't know. And for those cases, you have lower scale instruments, really. But even someone with hands maybe like mine that are a little bit longer, I don't know. If I don't have good technique, I'm not able to reach and not able to play speed, to play fast, even if I had a really big hands. Okay, it depends really on technique. Again, if I'm gripping my bass like this and trying to play, I don't have any type of reach really. I can just play over 3 frets comfortably, maybe 4 if I try a little bit, and I will get really sore into it. So it's all about technique again. Relaxing, playing with your thumb over here with a really nice grip, tight grip, with your arm really present into it. Trying not to fold your wrist too much, and having this relaxed position. I think this is the most important. And for that, in order to reach, you need to get more into your arm, okay, and a little bit more of a bend position on your fingers. Also, it's not just playing a kind of like a perpendicular in a 90 degrees angle from the finger to the fret. It's not like that. Okay, you're always reaching frets in an angle. Okay, I don't know if I can show it like this. Maybe it's always an angle. Okay, I'm not doing it straight like this. It's always an angle, and many other things will give you more into thinking it's your physicality, the thing that gives you limits, but it's actually your technique in many cases. Okay, so after you have a good technique, you can delimit yourself and say, okay, maybe I really do have small hands, and maybe I have to do something about it, maybe not. Okay, your goals, as I say, should never be being the fastest man alive playing or the most technical player. Okay, you need to have an excuse in order to do that. Okay, if you want your sound to be that, maybe go over that, but don't make it your primal goal. I think technique is really important to achieve. When you do warm-ups or other practices, do you implement other modes? You mean modes like Dorian, Phrygian, whatever, or you mean modes like types of warm-ups? I'm not really clear with that, but it seems more coherent that you're talking about types of I don't know, of warming up. I usually warm up with the same exercises, really. Just to summarize, I'm just warming up with this type of exercises, really chromatic. I'm doing it over here. Maybe I'm playing with it. But for most of the cases now, I'm trying to practice more scales. Okay, major scale I'm going through all the time, and I'm trying to make an interrupted passage of the major scale over the whole fretboard. Something like this, okay? Knowing major scale, it's really important. I always say it's a thing that you should all know, okay? The patterns into it will get you into knowing the major scale for any key. So this is important. Again, you have a kind of like 2 or 3 types of approaching a major scale. In finger-wise, you can start with your middle finger and do a shape like this. It's like this. And this shape you repeat it over here. Starting with your middle finger. If you start with your index finger you have this type of position, or again over here. And if you're starting with your little finger, it's another type of position over here. Or maybe like this. Okay. So if you go into different positions, really what you're doing is just approaching the same note in different types of parts, but it's just the same thing, the same scale. Okay, it's not a different type of anything. So I'm starting with this one usually, then I go over here, and then it's just repeated. Okay, I just went through mostly all the notes from the C major scale over the whole fretboard, and for that you need to know a lot of your positions and patterns. Okay, I have a complete, I think, C major go through in a video that I maybe have to reconstruct, because I did some scales that are not that really necessary to implement, but some others really are. The most common will always be this one. Okay, starting with the middle finger. Okay. Any tips for freestyle improvisational bass? Okay. The thing about freestyle is that it's really not always freestyle unless you are really improvising over a tonality, maybe, and maybe you're not caring about the harmonies of whatever and just playing whatever notes you want. You know, for free jazz or whatever you want. Yeah, really, that's a more freeness on your improvisation. But people need to understand that in some cases improvisation is not that free. You really need a context into it. So for that context, it's important to understand with what harmony are you working into. Okay. Okay, give me a minute, please. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm a little bit solicited today. Sorry about that. What was I talking about? I just got lost, really. But hey, Nathan asks, can you tell us what covers are coming up on the channel? I have two things for. I just prepared the two things that comes next week, and well, I think it's a song that maybe some of you will not like because it's kind of like a K-pop thing. I don't know. It's probably Korean. Yeah, it should be Korean. It's kind of like the new era of Oriental pop rock that has many disco sounding and many funky tunes that I really like, and it's not a bad bass line. Obviously, it's a patron request, but I really enjoyed playing it. You have that. I don't remember the name. It's actually, I think it's Royal Pirates. The song it's called Drawing the Line, something like that. And the other song is the other song it's actually from Joy Division. Look at the changes I'm having over here. It's Joy Division and it's Love Will Tear Us Apart. Okay, that's a nice line to implement to your repertoire. Probably it's really not that difficult, but it involves I think that is important in most post-punk bands or from that era. It's that bass. It's really present in a melody, in melody ways. You know, you're playing with melodies a lot in that type of playing. I like that. So yeah, those are the two. I have so many other things that I need to work on, really. Do you ever do gospel style bass, old style with that driving chromatic bass lines of new age funky bass like Thank You Lord from Israel Houghton? I think I did some song from that guy. I don't remember. Yeah, I've come to know and come to listen really that gospel bass and gospel in general has really good approaches into music in some cases. Okay, besides being whatever you want really and whatever your thoughts are on religion, there's religious music that actually sounds really good, and probably most percentage of religious music is not that great, but gospel and Afro American people really, African American, really know how to do it in many ways. And of course, blues, it comes from a spiritual process. So everything that we work on in rock really comes from a spiritual people. So we need to take that in mind. And yeah, the approach in bass, it's usually great. I really like it. You're working usually with not that difficult harmonies, but you're giving a nice approach into the harmony. Okay. Where should I start with trying to learn arpeggios? Really nice question, thanks. Well, as I always say, bass is an instrument of patterns, and I think that is the most important thing that will help you get and memorizing things that you really need to know. Knowing your patterns and understanding it and trying to elaborate them in your mind, I think. So, and of course, knowing the nature of a chord. Arpeggios is just playing a chord note for note. It's just that. So again, as I just repeated some time ago, major and minor chords are the most easy or the simplest, and the base, the foundation of all the chords that you can actually make. Really, of course, you have a augmented and diminished chords and other type of chords, of course, and then you go over the seventh and the ninth and 11th and whatever. That just adds more tension into it, but the nature of the chord itself, you can play just by knowing the major and minor again. So in order to do that, you need to understand the same thing that I just said. I'm going to repeat it. Here's C. If you go into the context of C major scale, you have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay? When you want to create harmony over this C, you just need to pile up thirds on top of each note to create different tensions and functions in the harmony of the C major key. So actually, from C you can create a chord, from D, from E, from F, from G, from A, from B, from C. From that names comes the chords and the grades of each key. Again, from C you will get C major if you pile on top notes that are compounded in the scale of C major. So a third, it's always in thirds. A third from C major up, it's E, applying in the context of C major, again, using just notes that come from the scale of C major. So you have C, E, and G. If you analyze it a little bit more, it's the root of the chord. Then it's called root because you get the name of the chord from it, C. Not now for knowing if it is major or minor, I'm adding the third, and that third can be major, like this case. How do I know it's major? First, physically I know it because you have this interval, and a major third is just composed of a space of 2 whole tones, okay? And that is your third of the chord, of the major chord, C, E, and you finish with the fifth. The fifth is always the same, especially on bass interval, okay? This interval in bass, it's always a fifth. From this note to this note, okay? So it's the following string, 2 semitones down. To create a fifth in any part of the bass, that interval will be a fifth. That's really important to know because you can add the fifth and you will always get a different approach than just playing the root. So your fifth is over here. So you have, and that is an arpeggio really, and that is the principal arpeggio that you can really understand. So you have here, that is already an arpeggio. So you have root, third, fifth, third, root. If you understand those notes and you can replicate them into more parts of the bass, you will be in a better terrain, of course. So you can understand that the octave from this C, it's C over here. So you have, that's a finishing with the higher octave to complete more of your arpeggio, you know. So the important thing about knowing arpeggios, of course, is understanding the pattern that you can apply when you are confronted with a C major played by other harmonic instrument. Especially, you know, you have a guitar and they are playing something like this. So you can apply and do, okay, maybe I can do parts of the arpeggios. And there you have it. You're feeling feeling with information about the chord. That's important. Of course, this is not the only pattern that you can use. Okay, this is just one. And again, you repeat the same deal with positions of scales. You can do arpeggios with your index, with your middle, and with your little finger. Okay, this is one of the most difficult, I think, but it's really great for some other thing. So knowing the nature of those types of patterns will give you more information even to work on it. Okay. All of that is just arpeggios. So if you want to do I don't know, B major arpeggio, you just repeat the same pattern. Okay. Okay, just the same thing, the same patterns repeated. So that's why I always say that knowing patterns it's beneficial for understanding bass better, and getting into play more and play faster and go into play faster. Okay, sorry if I go into much of the question, but I think I need to fill in some emptiness. Can you tap on a bass? If so, can you also tap harmonics? Yeah, you can tap normally, yeah. And you can actually do tap harmonics. It's not. It's really difficult, really, but you can do it. Okay. Yeah, that boy says, thanks for your advice, man. Gotta go, but great stream. Thanks. I will try to expand this a little bit more so more people come into it. Okay, so maybe this will be a little bit more relaxed. Even I'm going to take some time into the questions to elaborate them a little bit more. But I'm going to try to extend myself a little bit more, okay? Here we have MH Basin. Well, here's the thing. When I first got my bass, it sounded nice with slap technique, but it took it to the music store to get it adjusted just in case it wasn't perfect out of the package, and it sounded terrible in the slap style after adjustment. As I as I always say, I'm not that the more fit person to tell you about problems in adjusting. I'm not the greatest guy for that, but I could say it might be that he adjusted the strings to be maybe a little bit more tight to the bass, and then that probably affected slap in a way, or maybe it could be the opposite. I'm not really clear on that, so maybe I can't help you that much. But yeah, if the action is too high, you will be not allowed to play a good slapping technique, and if it is too low, you can actually have troubles with that also, because if it is too low, you are not able to give the distance of the strings to rebound into the frets. So I don't know. Anthony Miller says you should play Christmas songs when it comes around. That way we can see you in your Santa hat. Okay. I will try to do something like that. I think for last Christmas I wanted to make kind of like an arrangement or something for bass, but I usually don't have the time for that. And that is a little bit of a shame to know that I don't have much time for other things, but maybe in some other time, you know. Two questions. How about bending on bass? Yeah, it's kind of like the same as guitar, but you need to be more aggressive and more careful with it. Okay, just to bend from this note to this note, you need to bend that much. Okay, so getting into this note, it's almost not reachable. So bends have to be a little bit more extreme, and even going not into the semitone, even going into the quarter of a tone, just to get it that little bit of a thing. For something like this, man, I'm not going into even the going into the complete semitone over there. But yeah, you usually go with 3 fingers, or maybe even 4. But I tend to go with using the ring finger in the first place, then supporting with the middle and the index. And for that, you really need to put your thumb over here. Okay, you can't bend like this. It needs to be like this. Okay. And same thing for vibrato. That I think vibrato is in one or other case, it's just bending, but slightly, and from one side to another, or maybe just for one side. Okay. And you have 2 types of vibrato. You can do it like this, more aggressively, I think. You can vary that from intensity. You can do, or maybe something slight. And you can also do a little bit of this motion to get a really, really slight vibrato. More like a violin or cello or whatever. I think I had some other questions over here. Do you count when you play? That's the one I just skipped. Alexander Medeiros. Do you count when you play? That's a really interesting thing, because many people tend to think that you need to be counting every time, especially for, I think, for common time signatures, and for odd time signatures, especially, people tend to think that you need to be counting all the time, and the thing is, you shouldn't. I think for beginners, counting is really important, especially when you're trying to practice and trying to do something like counting and playing a difficult line, it will be really difficult trying to use say 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 2. And doing that, it's a really nice exercise to practice. Really, it gives you a lot of dissociative thinking. But for most of the cases, when you're playing with a band, you go into the groove and you know the accent of it. You know it's a 4/4, and you go into that knowing okay, so knowing something that many people don't understand. It is that time signatures are not just for messing with you. They are for creating order of notes, of writing, but also of accenting. Okay, so when you're confronted with a 4/4, naturally you should be accenting more on the first beat and then on the third. Okay, bum, 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 bum. Of course, it's not that aggressive, but you should be always trying to go into the one. Okay, that's why people say, okay, in the one is important, because you meet your mates in the one. Okay, in most of the cases. So important to trying to go with the feel of it after already knowing how to count it. Okay, probably if you want to confront with yourself with a 5/4 or a 7/4, you might need to count a little bit. But what I always try to go into is that anyone can count a 4/4 and not thinking about the numbers, and anyone can count a 3/4 or a 2/4. So a 7/4, you can think about it like a 4/4 and a 3/4, and a 5/4, you can think about it like a 3 and a 2. You know, dividing that things, it's always coherent to music, because most of the time you are doing a pattern that goes into combinations of simple patterns. Okay, but after a while you will not need that much help to know, okay, this is a 5/4, a 7/4, how do I follow it. Okay, but yeah, when I play I don't know how it this is 7/4. 1 2 3 oh 1 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So after a while I'm not thinking about the numbers really. Okay, I'm more just thinking about where do you meet in the accent, in the first accent, in the one, the dominant beat. Thoughts on Janek with Dala. I don't know it. I don't know who that is. I don't know why are you talking about pizza over here? Yeah, I'm a little bit out of tune. And yeah, about the face thing, I always say it. I'm not going to say it that much. Okay, I have a video in which I show my face, and I'm not scared or shy to show my face, but I want for you to give attention to the instrument. And when people say that face reveal or whatever, that's the thing that motivates me into not showing my face ever, you know, because people take too much attention on who is playing the thing. what face is behind the thing, and why do you care really? I'm giving you all these tools, and a face is not needed. Entertainment is, as you see it in YouTube, it might be a little bit dangerous, especially for education. Okay, you don't need a face to to educate. Yeah, but in the channel, in the band channel, I show my face every time. You know. Um, do you have plans for to cover more Ghost? Says Kevin. Not really, but I really enjoyed playing. I think it's one song that I have from Ghost, and there's many others that I really like. That's a great band. Uh, and not only for metal or for hard rock or whatever. They are really well constructed songs. I really like it. Um, well, yeah, I don't know who that is. Yeah, that's the thing. As Alexander says, I think you need more focus into what matters. In some cases, it's more like a in the first place it wasn't an ideology thing. Okay, I it was just a practical thing. I wanted to for people to pay more attention, and to have a better angle into the bass. And actually, for the angle that I use, my face is not involved in it. I'm not taking care of showing my face, because in the first place, the take doesn't allow it me to wasn't allowing me to do the both things, and having the correct angle that I want for you to understand everything that's going on over here. Okay. But after a while, I understood in a way that it's not there's no need to show face. Yeah, I think the cat just appeared, because every one of you are saying cat. Okay. Um, the cat is called negra. That means black in Spanish, but it's black female. Okay. This is the thing about Spanish people. We make females and males of almost anything. Okay. So it's negra and negro, and negro means black male, and black female negra. There you have it. A nice Spanish lesson. Um, I really love Snarky Puppy, and I've been listening to them a little bit more. But I wouldn't consider myself really apt to just play the songs, especially for the things that I'm doing now. I'm trying to play the songs, that I always play, but I always try to analyze over them, analyze harmony, and analyzing a theory behind it. And I know if I confront myself with something more approach to jazz, maybe I will fail, because there's many things that I don't know. Okay, for popular music is always not that difficult. Okay, I was actually impressed that for Don't Speak, the song from No Doubt, you have modulation, and you have things that are interesting, and things that many people don't take account for in popular music. Maybe it's simpler, but it's really great to know. Okay, you have these types of approaches into theory, even for popular music, you know. Um, Here's the cat. No one ever knows. Sorry. Um, can you make a live Q&A with just your cat? Yeah, sure. I'm just thinking about making a cover of 433. I don't know, 433 from John Cage. That's a great song that you need to listen to. Um, Hi, how can I have a motivation in playing bass again? Well, I actually had a comment from someone really recently. Many people always say this to me in the comments. They say thanks because I after I don't know how many years I picked the bass again and whatever. And I feel encouraged by those comments because I know my task here in this channel is approaching people into the instrument and approaching people into more knowledge and well constructed knowledge. Okay, that's why tablature is important actually for me, because of that, because it's a simple approach into it, and it can become into something advanced. Okay, it's many people think because something is beginner oriented, it's bad, and it's really not the case, you know. I think we are all beginners and we should all go back into the beginner things to understand the viewpoints of other people and to understand how to create a really strong root. Okay, when you have a strong roots for, you know, other knowledge you will find eventually. Okay, when you have the motivation of it. So to have motivation, I don't know if you need you need to enjoy yourself playing, really. Okay, that's why I'm not more into practicing exercises or whatever. I tend to play more. I tend to play more songs, play more, to get more interested into knowing why is that sounding that way. How can I improve that? Knowing that, but over the context of the song itself, on the context of what you want to achieve with the instrument. Okay, and many people want to achieve playing bass to be in a band, and that's a really important thing. And to be in a band, you can learn a couple songs from the tablature, and then understanding, okay, that's what I'm doing, that's what I can do better, and that's my technique that I can approach better, and many other things. But it's the easy approach, the thing that I want to manage more. So I think I'm doing it a little bit right in matter of the comments that people tend to go into me. Okay. How long on average does it take to transcribe music? That's really difficult to say, because there's songs that I've been transcribing for a while now, and I just can't find the right place or the right note, and I have to kind of like be more creative into it, especially for songs that don't have the bass much present into them. But for example, I don't know, I prepared a song, and in a day maybe I can have the transcription, maybe I can play it a little bit, and that's it. But it's a full day of transcription, really, and it's a really thorough transcription in which I go into the songs and I see, okay, he's playing it in this part, not in this part, and I construct in base of that, and many other things. It's not just hearing and transcribing in some cases. But yeah, it depends really on the difficulty of it. Okay, I think I'm getting a little bit fast because I know many things that are repeated into playing instruments, into playing bass, and especially because intervals. And I'm going to be always trying to encourage you into know your intervals, know how to apply them by ear, and know how to apply them by the instrument itself. As I just said, the fifth. This is a fifth, and this is the sound of a fifth. And this is the motion of a fifth, and this is the pattern that comes from a fifth. A fifth that you can repeat in any note in the bass, because bass has this quality that is really smooth. It's how could you say it's there's no different patterns that you can apply. Okay, a fifth will be a fifth in any part of the instrument, and that gives you a lot of power into knowing, okay, this is how it sounds, and now I hear a fifth and I know this is a fifth. Not even trying to brag about myself, but it's just about practice. Okay, I know here goes a fifth, and I play it and I say, okay, oh, it was a fifth, really. And I don't even really know why is that, other than just playing and getting familiar with those intervals. Okay, so I recommend you softwares of ear training, especially on intervals. Ear Master, I think I used, but mainly trying to incorporate intervals into your daily lives. For example, a fifth, it's an interval used by actually by John Williams in two cases, especially for, of course, for Star Wars. There you have it. The first interval is something that you can actually sing, and when you can sing it, you are familiar with it. So you know it before you can play it. Okay, that's important. And I think for E.T. Yeah, there you have it. So you can actually make this little thing into your memory, okay? And that is for any interval you can find. You can find a comfort song, maybe to go into the interval, and then you lose it. I'm not thinking about Star Wars anytime I'm playing a fifth, okay? But it's a really good reminder of it. Who's Joseph? Oh, okay. I don't. Sometimes I find I find you guys arguing about I don't know what. But it's great. Okay, how much time do we have in this? Okay, I'm going to wait for more questions over here. Would you suggest investing in pedals for different bass tones? Or is amp, EQ, or processors enough to get a good range of tones on a bass? Like for those Muse or Tool songs with distortion, etc. Okay, there's limitations of tone that you can't achieve without pedals, of course. You can't create distortion with just your fingers, of course. So this is the limit, I think. There's the limit of tone that you can apply with your fingers in any bass. There's the limit of the bass in the knobs that you can apply into tone. Then it comes into the equipment that you're using, of course, the level of gain that you're using or whatever, and the amp and the EQ on the amp. It's already important to know that, how to use that. And after that, if you manage to know how to get a good tone with all of that, you are in a really good ground, especially for bass, because we're not using that much other types of instrument of I mean of sounds. But if you want to be more creative, of course you need some pedals, okay, for delay, for more of a like a modulation things, chorus. For Tool, for example, you have a lot of pedals involved. Maybe some of you don't familiarize with, because many people are not really aware of what type of effect does what thing. Okay, chorus, it's present in some cases. Distortion, of course, and the difference between distortion, overdrive, and fuzz. They are important to know, but I'm actually not that aware of them technically. I just know them sonically, the difference. And many other things, but compression is something that it's really difficult to understand for people that are not getting into it. But compression, it's just limiting the signal into making it tighter and lowering down the higher volume signal and raising up the lower volume signal. Okay, and many other types of pedal. I'm not working with pedals really, because I go into it digitally. But if I have to replicate any of this on a live scene, I would have to buy a pedal and try to get into it. Okay, most of the time it's for live purpose, and unless you have a really good pedal, or you're really fond to your pedal, you take it into the studio, because in the studio you can go into a clean signal and then you can modify it actually, or you can go into the original sound with the pedals that you use because you like them. Okay, it's just a thing of taste in that part. What's the thing with Slayer? Because someone just said a comment. I don't know what types of wars are you fighting in the comments, really. You can let me know about that. But don't ever be disrespectful of other genres or other bands, really, because it's most of the time people that don't know them, and most of the time people that are just not that tolerant of other people's taste. You need to appreciate Slayer as much as you appreciate I don't know, um, what's the extreme opposite of Slayer? I don't know, Blue Oyster Cult. I don't know. I don't know. Um, Whatever other type of genre, try to appreciate it. I really like Slayer actually, and I can say I like Slayer, and I like I don't know, Philip Glass. I like Slayer, and I like Latin music, or I like I don't know, whatever extreme, but I like those extremes. You're limiting yourself if you're not trying to understand other genres. Madonna? Yeah, why not? Um, what kind of recording software do you use? About recording, I'm going from the bass into a nice line. It's a Fender California type chord that goes into a DI box. DI box It's called an IMP2 from Whirlwind, and that the iBox makes the signal into a more balanced signal, less noise and more richness, and goes into an interface. It's an audio interface. It's a Scarlett 2i2 Focusrite, really good for creating your home studio. Really, one of the best options and the cheaper options of a good preamp, and that goes into the computer, and from that it's all digital. Okay. That's the thing I really like about going back into the thing about disrespecting genres and whatever, because it's okay when someone says a really hated band or person is bad. Okay, we can all agree. All people in the internet can agree. Okay, Justin Bieber sucks or whatever you say. I don't know. um, and okay, that is also not fair. Okay, you need to respect any type of music, even the most popular shitty or commercialized stupid things. Okay, because maybe behind that there is actually good music, and that is the hypocrisy, I think, of music. You can fight it even if the purpose is really bad. Okay, Charles Manson did some music, and maybe you can appreciate it. Okay, I don't know that's the thing that you shouldn't appreciate music because of the people behind it in some cases. Okay, that says about the music itself, but it tends to limit yourself again. Um, Screamo, yeah. Well, okay, that's the thing about genres. I don't know. I would love to know to play at least one line of bass going into back into bass, but just regarding a different genre. Trying to play some reggae, trying to play hip hop, trying to play whatever. That gives you more language to your music. Okay, that's why it's important. Oh. Um, you say you like Hitler. Name three of his songs then. um, okay. I don't think we have more. Oh, okay. But is your video and audio recorded together, or do you have to sync it up? I'm just confused about that. No, no, no. Don't worry about it. It's something that many people don't care, and you should, because it's important for you to understand things. The camera just records the video. Okay, if I were to record just the audio with the camera, it would be really shit. Okay, so it's just the audio from the camera, and then I sync it all up first, without all the same that I just said. That goes into the software. The software records the signal. Then I take that signal and I use Sony Vegas actually to create all the main final product, in which I pick the video, I synchronize it with the audio, then I synchronize the tablature with the both things, and then I have most of the thing done. Okay, all of the other things are visuals and many other aspects that are tiny adjustments. I like metal much more than any pop, especially if the pop is auto-tuned, because it's not that big of an effort and I get all the fame, and in metal you have to work hard, just my opinion. Okay, yeah. But I understand that, but I think I'm a little bit over that also. the typical merit of music that takes more effort instead of music that takes a lot of effort. So what's the thing here? It's kind of like we're cultivating we're making a cult out of of complexity, out of people taking much effort to doing something. Okay, so what is the merit over there? Why people take so much shit into people that go into an electric music thing and press one button in the laptop and the music begins to sound and whatever, the usual critique? What's behind that? It's people thinking that it's just like people going into a modern art thing and seeing one line in a canvas and they say, okay, I could have done that. So this is one of the main important things about contemporary art that we need to take more in consideration. Okay, not just because I'm taking less or more effort into a piece of art, it's necessarily better or worse. There's other things that attract critique better, I think. Okay, I can make critique out of pop music not just because of if it is made by one person with just one plugin or whatever. It takes more about the construction of the song, of the music itself, the use of cliches, the use of bad lyrics, the use of many other things that you can critique out of something. But the merit of it's not in a way that important, I think. I wish I could do really exceptional music by just pressing one button, you know. It's complexity. It's not of something to be proud of, like in a power sense. Okay, it's the same with people thinking that, okay, I want to play like Steve Vai, I want to play like Wooten because they are so great and they know bass because they are the best technical whatevers. That's not the thing. The thing goes behind that. Okay, how to apply it into composition and music. So it's flashy. That's why it's always important not to go over the flashy things, the things that will make you the first impression out of something. Okay. I hope I'm making some opinion out of you. I think I had. How do you get a straight wrist when you play? Yeah, many people talking about the straight wrist. I wouldn't say I disagree with that, but it's important to keep a straight wrist in most of the cases. Okay, important over here. But in one sense or another, you're slightly bending a little bit of your wrist. I don't know if it is completely straight. You can't really, you know. But what it means, I think, taking care of the wrist means more that you need to take more positioning on your arm and your fingers into creating a better position, and not only your wrist. If you're doing something like this, you're straining yourself again. But if you do something like this and you play with a relaxed arm and wrist, and you go into this part that is the most difficult to achieve well, you can see I am bending a little bit of my wrist because it would be really difficult to not to. But the thing I'm doing is I'm trying to lower a little bit of my shoulder and my articulations over there, and I'm going into more of the arm, lowering more the arm, so I can get more space over here. Okay. So it's not just bending all of the wrist, it's maintaining a movement, a nice movement of the wrist, but it's not that bent, okay, or that bent. It's just a little bit of looseness, okay. The most important thing is if you notice you're having a bad time physically, you are doing something wrong. Really, you shouldn't be hurting in this experience. And it takes more of your position in the bass, actually, if you have a really good position, to be more accurate in your playing, okay? I think the best strap position actually is the one that is really tight into your body, because you have a really much better approach into it if you play it like this, you know, really tight to you with a strap, of course. And that's how I play it usually when I'm going live, okay? Who's hating Muse? I don't know. I don't hate Muse, actually. I have critiques, but I'm not going into hate of anyone, really. Yeah. The only that Nick Davis says something over here. The only pain people should feel is when they don't have calluses. Yeah, that's a pain that's a little bit inevitable, especially for the first timers in slap. You will get calluses over here and in the index if you're using it for popping, and it will be a passage for you to understand a little bit of the pain, really. But after a while, you will get more and more toughness in those areas, so it shouldn't be a problem. Do you play in any bands? I have a band, actually. It's a YouTube channel. It's called Ineres. We call it like that in Spanish, but you can say it's INHERES, kind of like in hears. So you can search for it. I don't know why people might hate Muse. In some cases, I think there's a little bit too much of a cliché in the rock scene. Kind of like it for me. It's just a little bit too old. The thing about the rock star, and that's something that I might make a critique out of it. In some cases, I think stadium rock and the use of the riff and whatever, it's going into some kind of a loose. But there's some really great Muse songs. I don't know. I don't think I like the last ones, but there's some really great things. I know you can see much of their influence going into it. If you know a lot about music, you can see all of their influences in any song. You can see, okay, here they took from Black Sabbath, here they took from Queen, here they took from Radiohead, here they took from even classical music, even Philip Glass, even many other. But that's the thing. Any one of us are doing that. We are borrowing from other people. Okay, nothing is original, and there's no bad thing about that. It's the combinations that really make a nice thing. Mm. Yeah, it's the voice is always something that it takes more and more difficulty to process, because it's just a really human thing to not liking a voice, or not liking a voice tone, or not liking a way that some people approach. Maybe someone can tell that the singer from Muse, it's a little bit over exaggerated, probably, or too over dramatic in his interpretation. Some people can say that, some people can't. Maybe they like it. I don't know. Um, but yeah, we shouldn't be make critique. We shouldn't be making critique if we're not, if we don't have anything important to say, and we're not really aware of the knowledge that we should have to understand things. Okay, you can't just say someone is a bad singer if you can't sing shit. Really, it is like that, and that's why I don't like critique, because the experience gives you knowledge. Okay, that's why teachers have to do what they teach. Okay, of course I can make a critique in other aspects about music without playing any instrument. I can say that. But you're referring to other types of concepts, okay? I can make music critique without playing any instruments. Of course I can. But I know other things. I know production. I know maybe I've read so much that I know things, of course. But going into the experience is always the important thing, I think. Ewak Jin says, do you have a technique for muting the string once you want the sounds to stop? I've heard you can use both left and right hands for muting. I'm a noob, sorry. Don't worry. We're noobs, okay? Yeah, muting, it's a really important task for bass, and it's played with all you can, with your left hand, with your right hand, with whatever you can to make strings to stop sounding. So here's an example, a really interesting example. Maybe you're playing something like this. When you're going over strings, you will always have to mute a lot. Okay, so for this to sound clean, you need to take care of a lot of things, especially when going back. For example, if I just play this unclean, it might be something like this. And I'm mixing notes that I don't want them to be mixed. Okay, I don't want them to sound at the same time. So I go, and for example, I play this note, and when I go into this other note, I'm doing job with my left hand first. I'm pressing the other fret, and when I press the other fret, I'm lifting slightly this finger, so this note won't sound anymore because it's trapped in a ghost note. It's trapped in this sound, okay? So when I go into other string, I always lift in this hand, so I don't sound like this. Then I have the note behind me sounding, if I don't stop it right there. That's the first step. But in my right hand, I'm also doing job. I'm doing this. I'm supporting with my thumb the note that I just played. So it's really not sounding anymore, okay? And and then again the same thing for the other note. Okay, always trying to mute with my thumb if I can, by going into the note that I just played to trap the sound, and also trying to use my other fingers that I have free. I tend to use the ring finger of this hand to mute more sounds that can appear over here. And for doing something like this, and for not sounding like this, it's just this hand. Again, you press, then release, and at the same time you release, you press, okay? If you do that well, you will not get that many undesired noises, okay? But there's many other examples, okay? Especially when you're trying to play something like this, I don't know. If you want to go over an open string, from one open string to another, it's something really difficult actually. To practice how to place your fingers over here so they stop some sounds and some other sounds and whatever. But it needs to be in context of what line are you working on it, okay? Maybe I'm doing something, I don't know. I can't remember much lines. I usually improvise, but I don't know, something like this. I'm doing a lot of work of silencing notes that I don't want to sound just by doing that. You know, especially I like to mute more with this hand. I'm taking control of it. It just for I think for the ideal muting technique, you should be able to just play the note that you want, and in any time, if you for one occasion mistakenly play other note, it should always be secured with a ghost note, secured with muting. Okay, that should be the wise thing to do. Okay. Do you have a routine every day with your playing? I don't need to think about a routine now because I have too many works to do. So now it's work. Now really I sit here for about 6 hours maybe, just transcribing and then playing or transcribing or playing more. And usually at night I pick up the instrument one time again if I want to, just to mess around a little bit, okay? After a while, I think you need a little bit less practice to get more back into your technique, but it's important always to keep practicing. Now I'm trying to apply more knowledge into my technique. I'm not that worried about not being able to play faster, or I'm not that worried into not being able to play other types of technique, maybe like double thumb, that I'm not really caring about that, but maybe I should. I don't know how to apply it, but there's many other things that I maybe will never get, but I don't care that much about that now. I really want to achieve more with more knowledge behind that, by knowing how to make great lines, how to improvise well, and how to cover the harmony, how to analyze harmony, how to apply all of that knowledge into instrument. Okay. Thanks to you, Maxim Shipski. I don't know what's the deal with your name, but I like it. Thanks to you. Thanks to everyone watching this. I don't know how much time do we have left. I'm just going into questions, but I want to extend this a bit more, just like maybe a more advanced class for Fridays. And since I'm not doing anything this Friday, it's good. Um, Rest strokes versus free strokes. Is there a time where one is more appropriate than the other? I don't know what you mean by that. I don't know. I don't know if I'm familiar with that. Rest strokes. Can you explain that to me, maybe, so we can work on it? Mm. Okay. I think some of you are conspiring into something over there. I don't know. But I gotta say, guys, I don't like people spamming whatever thing. Even if I like the song or I like the question, I'm not for people spamming. Okay, so don't make me do something crazy. Um. Yeah, probably. I don't know. I'm actually not already not familiar with the term free strokes or rest strokes. I'm waiting for someone to tell me something about that. Um, your bass influences, says Justin Light. I would say I always say Red Hot Chili Peppers had a little bit of great influence, especially for my era. I think of understanding music. Probably he was the most important bassist to to create awareness of what bass was really, and it was in a way of the importance that bass had in the band really. That is really important. Um, so maybe I will always be influenced by him in a way. You know, it's difficult to get rid of your influences. Um, but then I discovered more things, and I wouldn't say that I have just one influence now. You know, I try to go over whatever thing I like the most. And not trying to copy anyone, really. And that's the most difficult thing. Trying not to copy anyone, it's really difficult. What is the best start bass in your opinion? I always say to you that Squire is not a good start. It's not a bad start. I mean, Squire Fender bass. It maybe jazz or precision. I don't know. It shouldn't be a problem. But I recommend this bass always. It has given me a lot of satisfaction, at least in the sound that I can get from it, that I'm very proud of, even if it's not the greatest instrument. You have many other things, but if you're just beginning with something, I would encourage you to just pick whatever instrument. You know, the way will come if you go into whatever instrument. especially if it is not that great. I always say that you shouldn't start with the greatest things. You shouldn't start accommodated into anything. What bass did you start off with? With this bass, actually. This is the bass that I always started playing, and I played with other bass that was actually a stolen bass for a little bit of time, and it wasn't a really great instrument, but that inspired me into trying to get a better one, for sure. Okay, I think this is too much for today. So if there's not any more questions, I will be going for a while. Okay. But for a closing, maybe I'm going to play a little bit. I can't really remember what all the things that I talk over here. I don't know if I can name them anymore because I just say too much things. Yeah, okay. So I'm going just to play a little bit of whatever loop that I found. But what did we talk about today? We talked about well, I don't remember actually, but we talked many things. So here goes. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I'm that inspired today. But um I think this is all for today. Thanks anyone for being here. I hope you bring more of that interesting questions that I've been listening to today. This is all by you, as I always say. You are controlling this, and the experience that I can deposit into you, really. And I hope I'm doing a good job into introducing some of you into some things, and maybe giving you more feedback or more communication that we all really need for this community. Okay, we need to think of this as a community more. Okay, and we need to protect this community. Okay, trying not to mess this up with too much of a childish comment. Okay, we all can mess around one time or another, but it's not all the time trying to take attention for me. Okay, it's not all the time trying to do bad things. Okay, so thanks everyone for being part of this, and can you help me cook beans and rice? Oh, I would love to. I'm a little bit hungry. Okay, so that's it. I will see you next Friday with more questions and answers with me. Sorry if I tend to go too much into whatever question, but I don't think it's just rambling about anything. It's usually something that maybe we can all make a conversation or debate together. I don't know. You need to understand that playing an instrument is more than just being a someone that plays notes and interprets things, and we have some merit other than that. Okay, we are creators and we are many good things that we need to have an opinion, really. Okay, so that's important. Tom T says, I'm a 14-year-old bass player and I learned bass last year and have been playing in jazz band. And any tips for learning songs by ear or rock music? Well, I think I have some other things that we can all work on. I make this every Friday, so sorry if I can't answer any one of you. I would love to, but I think I'm going right now. So save your questions for next Friday, okay? Friday is about 4 o'clock, I don't know. Maybe 3, I don't know. So that's it. I will see you next week.